Swindon, much like Jockaldine, was somewhat hastily added to the game. The decision to add it wasn't really made because the map was really good and would be an impressive inclusion into the game, but was more made because we just needed more maps and we wanted to include community maps. Stargirl, a prominent creator at the time and still a fairly prominent creator today, had yet to have a map featured in the game at that time. Most of their maps, though, were, well, not up to par with the game's standards. That's not to say that they were bad maps. They were fun, they were great, but they were all missing little things or had glaring flaws to them. And don't get me started on the difficulty of some of those maps. Look at London Bridge, by God, that thing was tough. And, funnily enough, Swindon was actually no exception here. As you might notice while you're playing, this map has quite a few trains with signal stopping penalties turned on. This, on a map with purely manual signals, can prove to be a bit problematic. And that's even after we removed signal stopping penalties from over half the trains. Now it's far more manageable, but it can still be a bit troublesome, especially for newer players. Despite this, I still think the map deserves its moderate difficulty rating, and I believe it's a fine inclusion into the game. Despite its troubles and my personal concerns about the map, it's actually quite enjoyable. Every platform has its purpose, every train has its trick. The frequent inner-city services on the main line add a nice layer of consistency to the level, yet never feel spammy, never feel repetitive, never overstay their welcome. Most other services are unique, offering their own spin on what seems to be a mundane track layout at a first glance. Well, mundane aside from the branch line, but the branch is single track, so... Overall, a solid inclusion from a solid creator. Yeah, that's all I have to say for this one, too. I'll leave you completely to the video in a second, but there is actually one little last detail that I found kind of interesting I'd like to share with you. Earlier this year, in mid-January, I made a bunch of nerfs to random levels throughout the game. Well, okay, it wasn't really random, but I still made a bunch of nerfs to a bunch of levels. Most of these nerfs were to signal stopping penalties, because, they're kind of frustrating, as I mentioned earlier. A ton of easy maps had signal stopping penalties not because they added anything to the level, but just because they were the default standard. It really made a lot of these easy levels not so easy. So I went back and modified half the levels in the game and just removed as many signal stopping penalties as I could from them. Swindon, however, was actually one of the few levels that I didn't modify. I think that's because I already previously modified it and I thought, oh, it's good enough already, and, well, I still think I was right there. But it's just really interesting because even some tougher levels than this one got nerfed. I did my best to tone down signal stopping penalties in as many levels as I could, and for some reason, I intentionally excluded this one from this purge. I just found that really fascinating, Anyways, enough commentary padding. Next week, hopefully we'll have something a lot more interesting. We're finally delving into the challenging levels, so it'll be very different what we see. For now, though, that's all, folks. Cheers. See you in the next one. Enjoy the rest of the footage.